Okay, go. Ready to rumble.
He doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
I'm ready to rumble.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hey monkeys, how you doing? Damian Keys here. Welcome to the hashtag Ask Damo show number something or other. We don't actually know.
We lost track.
We don't know what it is. We lost track a while ago. This is a show where you get to ask questions, social media, business, music industry, whatever you want, musician, career, and we'll do our best to answer it. With me as always is Melissa,
Hey.
answering the questions. So we've got a slightly different format this week.
Yeah.
Where the question was put up on Facebook yesterday, and there's a prize for the questions to get read out. So, and the reason for it is because we're searching on everything. There's now so many bits of social media that I'm getting questions on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So I'd like to make it so it's a bit more engagement on the Facebook. So the way it'll work now is I'll put a post out which will say, what's your questions for the hashtag Ask Damo show? If you comment and your question gets read out, you'll win a prize. Now, when I put this up last night, I said that the prize was either going to be a Skype or a face-to-face if you're in Brighton. I said it was going to be, number two was an MOT of your social media, so I can go through all your social media and give you a bunch of ideas of what you could do better. Or number three, a t-shirt. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do all three, is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do all three.
All three for people.
So, 4 questions. If you read out, then email katie@dkmanagement.co.uk and she will sort all this stuff out time-wise. So after this, I'm off to Edinburgh.
No way.
Yes,
What
literally,
are you doing in
I've got to go straight from here to the airport, off to Edinburgh. I'm doing a conference tomorrow. I'm talking at the Edinburgh Blogger Conference, which I'm very excited about.
That'd be so cool.
And then the next day I'm in Fife, talking at Fife University. So that'll be quite
nice.
Cool. So
What kind of talk are you doing at the uni?
The talk for the uni is more creatives and more music industry backgroundy stuff.
Awesome.
The blogger conference will be slightly more social media.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Cover all bases.
I feel like I'm travelling around a lot at the moment. So we're doing this and then off we go.
Sweet.
Cool. So questions. Let's jump straight in.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So we've got quite a few this week, but we're going to kick it off with Michael Shanaker. And he said, quite seriously, what do you think to Patreon? Positives and negatives. It's similar to what we're doing for ourselves in a way, but it's huge and seems amazing on first glance with lots of assistance.
Yeah, Patreon is an absolutely fantastic thing, and there's a bunch of things similar to Patreon. Patreon is probably the bigger one.
Yeah.
Now, about 7 or 8 months ago, I made a video which was called I Saved the Music Industry.
Yeah.
And that video was all about ways that bands can monetize what they do as, not just musicians, but as creatives and in bands. And a lot of people came through and said, oh, Damian's invented Patreon. And I was thinking, no, I haven't invented Patreon, because my idea was, you build your audience and you find ways to monetize it.
Yeah.
Patreon is similar, but I sponsor people on Patreon. There's a few people I sponsor on Patreon, and the reason why I sponsor those people on Patreon is because I've kind of fallen in love with their content, and I really like what they do. I feel like they put so much time, effort into their art, into their creativity. I don't feel like really get enough out of it, and they've still got jobs, and I feel a little bit like I want to support them. And so therefore I pay a certain sort of subscription fee, and the way it works is for these guys, if they're a YouTuber for example, then I pay them say £2 per video that they make, with a maximum of 3 videos a month, for example, and I can cap it as what I want it to be, but it's up to me. And it's a way that I can sort of give back and support them. So, and I think that's a truly fantastic thing, and it's a great way that artists can make a bit more money. However, this is not a negative, but I think that the key is in the consumption of what I just said. Is I feel a kind of pang. I feel a bit of a guilt by the fact that I don't think they're getting paid as what they should get paid, and I want to support them. And it feels a little bit like, the big chains versus a small independent shop. So yesterday I was going for a meeting, and Katie said, "Oh, do we have to go there? It's a big chain. I'd rather go to the little independent, support the local." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's really lovely." But there is this kind of, I want to support the little guy. Which was very different to my idea, and again it goes back to the key, which is similar to kind of Kickstarter with Patreon. it's all very well that you want to make money out of this, but you still have to go back to the basics, which is you still have to have a good fan base, you still have to have a good following, and you still have to build super fans, because people aren't going to sponsor you on Patreon on potluck. They're going to see something, they're going to buy into it.
First.
Absolutely, they're going to buy into it, they're going to get that emotion, and they're going to think, wow, I like what you do a lot, and I really want to get behind and support you. And you know, there's a lot of people on Patreon, so they've got choice. Again, it's still noise. There's a lot of people that I can spend my money on to help the local artists. Who am I going to spend it on? Well, it's someone that speaks to me, someone that does something that I really buy into. So you can't bypass that. And this is the bit I think musicians want to do a lot of the time with bypassing things is, can I just get someone else to pay for my album? Yes, Kickstarter. Can I get someone else to pay for me making content? Yes, Patreon. Yes, you can, but you just still missed out 1, 2, 3, 4 years of actually building the audience and actually getting them so much into what you do that they're prepared to part with money. If you are prepared to do that, I'm telling you that that's great. Kickstarter's an amazing thing, as is GoFundMe, as is Patreon, and there's loads of these other things. They're all fantastic. However, you still have to put that work in. If you've done that, then there's loads of ways of monetizing. And I think we should do a video in the next week. When I come back, we should do a video on ways to monetize your band, because I don't think people are still buying into, if you can build the audience, you win. Simple. Simple as that. There is no other rule, because if you build the audience, Red Bull will come on board and invest in it. Or if you build the audience, you can do a Kickstarter campaign. I mean, there's so many ways that you can fund something if you've got the audience, which is basically simple supply and demand. If there is demand, if there is demand, then you put the supply in. So that's the bit that I think is missing with stuff like most artists when they go on Patreon, because otherwise it's just beer money. Otherwise it's just, we get 50 quid, maybe 100 quid. And, for 3, 4, 5 people in a band, then, in order for you all to be on minimum wage, it's going to be 60, 70, 80,000 pound a year. It's not Patreon money unless you start really getting into the crux of things.
So would you say it's kind of it's not always a case of if you build it they will come, you've got to put in all the sort of foundations first?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, yes, it's a good idea, but you've still got to go back to the beginning and you still have to build the audience, and there is no getting away with that.
Okay, cool. Alright, second question is from Ben O'Reilly. He's asking the pros and cons of recording at home versus recording in a studio. He says, I find the productivity and sound quality of the song is better at a studio, however recording at home over a long period of time, the quality of the song is a bit better. What do you think?
It's a really good question, that. I really like that question, because when I do my music industry talks, one thing I say is the best thing about this is nowadays you can do all this stuff for free. You can record in your house for free. But again, that's a very flippant remark, because it does take into consideration that you are very, very good at recording and it depends what sort of music you are making, because certain music lends itself better to home recordings, and Bruce, my old business partner, I mean, he's very, very big on guitar sound. You aren't going to get that sort of guitar sound as much as I've just stood there and watched Bruce argue with people about Kemper amps. Like, there's lots of people who don't know what that is, but basically it's a way of simulating a certain type of guitar sound, and he says it just doesn't move the air the same. It's still a replication of it. It's not the same. Obviously he's going to notice the difference, and I'm probably not going to notice as much of a difference, but certain people, they take guitar sounds or they take drum sounds seriously, and so certain things are harder to record at home. But this is what I would say. I think when it comes to actually getting your stuff out there, home studio and getting good at that is such an amazing way of building momentum. So going in the studio and recording and releasing something fantastic, there is just nothing like that. It's such a brilliant thing to do. But what people do is they do all this stuff at home, they don't put it out, and then they wait to go in the studio. And that takes, that could take months because of the money that goes into it, the time, everyone's working or everyone's at college. So this is what I would do, is I would have a strategy for both on how both of them fit in, if it were my band. Because I think people are smart nowadays. I think my mum would understand when something says demo format or home recording, or this is something we knock together ourselves, and this is the one in the studio. I think there's a bit of a story with that, and I think people are still caught up in in the magic,
Yeah.
in the you get the finished article, and here it is, and that's the way it's always been. But you know, we are living in a different time. We're living in a time now where YouTubers will make something and put it out that day, and so people are just getting used to daily consumption. They're not, even when the new Stranger Things thing came out. Stranger Things came out and everyone's like, holy shit, Stranger Things has come out. It's fantastic. It's taken them, 2 years to make it, or however long it's taken it. All of that money, all of that time. You know, and it's, I don't know how many episodes, but it's over however many weeks. Nah, binge it. 3 hours, done. 4 hours, done. And then it's out of the way. It's gone. I just want it. Give it to me. Bang. Did you see it? I watched it. Yeah, it's fantastic. You know, so I think the same thing. I'm not dissing an album. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But for me, I think the whole process, if it were me, I would be recording demos. And do you know what I would do is, do you know what really would be a really good strategy that musicians don't do? Is they record stuff and it stays on their computer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and you just go, oh, it's not ready. It's not good enough to put out. And I'm thinking, for you, it's not good enough, but for me as the fan, I want to hear this shit because I'm not going to judge you on it. I'm not going to, especially when you're an unsigned band, when you just say, this is something we knocked together, we thought it's not really, we're not going to release it, but we thought we'd just put it out there. So, you know, why would a band put a vlog out which they've just knocked together of them, of them on tour or they're messing around? Why would they be putting Insta stories or Insta or Snapchat stories which are just going around, and then when it comes to a piece of music that they've written, they go, no one can hear that because it's not finished. It doesn't make sense to me. I would rather say, we weren't that happy with this, but we wanted to show you because you're the fan base, because you're the audience, because we want to look after you, and we're just gonna, this is something we did today. Because I think that's part of the story. And you wouldn't do that in a studio. You do that at home.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, it's quite good as post content in a way as well. Like, I know some bands that have released demo albums after the actual album just to keep momentum going on.
I love that shit. Like, like whenever I go on Spotify and they've released some album and the last 3 tracks just says demo version, I'm like, I want to hear that. You know, I'm not judging them. I'm going, well, when they did the demo, that was rubbish. Of course it wasn't as good. That's what the studio's there for. But I would include it. So for me, what I'd be doing, if it were me, if I was starting a band in 2000, going into 2018, the strategy I would have is, we are going to write a lot of shit, and we are going to be pushing it out, and then it's going to be more of a slightly YouTuber based thing where I'm going to be writing stuff and I'm going to be saying, this is what I did today, this is a song I wrote today, just thought I wanted to play it for you guys. Probably won't come to anything, we probably won't record it in the studio, and I'd be doing that again and again and again and again. But then when it came to the album, that's when I'd polish everything up and I'd say, right, I've written 100 songs and put them on my YouTube, on my Facebook, and I've been looking after my crowd, but I really like these 6 or these 7 or however many you want it to be. It doesn't matter whether it's 4 or 12, that's bullshit. And I'd pick the ones I wanted and I go, right, those are the ones I want to record. And I want to say, on the journey that we've had over the last 3 months, 6 months of writing this stuff, loads of shit, loads of good stuff, but these are the ones I really, really love. I'm going to make them into an album and I'm going to say, these are my favourite ones. And that's the way I would do it. Instead of doing all the writing and just throwing them in the bin or leaving them on a computer. I wouldn't do that. I take people with me on the journey. So for me, there's absolutely pros and cons of both. Obviously, going in the studio is always going to be such a brilliant experience. Loads of social media. You are going to get probably a better recording from a proper studio, unless you're a world-class producer. But for me,
that always helps.
Yes, does help. For me, it's the journey. For me, it's going in, it's getting music out there and actually and rewarding your audience. And even if something's unfinished, it doesn't mean you can't reward your audience. You know, if Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters just came online and just did a live thing, we're like in the studio, we're writing the song, we don't really like it, we wouldn't care. We'd be like, fucking, that's so cool. That's a new song. It wasn't very good. That doesn't matter. It'd
be cool seeing the transition as well. So, yeah, definitely. So, Marie Dangerfield is asking...
such a good name.
It's a pretty good name. When to spend money on help with your music versus just doing it all for yourself, which is quite similar, I think, from a question we had on Twitter, wasn't it? From Louis.
Yes.
About kind of where to spend money.
I think Louis had a question which was, if you only had £100 to spend on your band, what would you spend it on? So and so money comes up quite a lot when we're building. How much money do you need? And I asked a lot of questions about PR and hiring people in. You know, I did that music industry talk the other day, and there were managers there saying a new way that managers work is they work on retainers just like anyone else. So you pay them 300 quid a month or 500 quid a month, and they manage your band, rather than a manager coming on board and any money made they take 20%. A very old school way of doing things, and nowadays very difficult to do it like that. So managers just say, no, we will manage your band. You can use our contacts. We will do our best to manage it, but you pay us a retainer. So similar things. What we're talking about here is working with low level money and when to spend money and what to spend money on.
Yeah.
And I am a big believer. I'm a big believer in creativity rules. So for me personally, I'm a big believer in actually taking that away and just saying, no, we're not gonna spend any money on anything until we need it, which is what Marie is saying. When do you need it? I would say, or going back to Louis' question, what do I spend it on? I would spend it on everyone getting together as much as possible. So for me, creativity rules. So I last night I was with a band in like a car garage, like not like a house garage, like a proper like MOT type garage. And they were rehearsing in there, and I went down with Mark and Bruce, and we were just sort of, well, I was just watching, but they were sort of producing a track. So in the pre-production stages, it didn't cost them anything, because I'm guessing one of them worked there or one of them's dad's there. They just brought the gear in, they rehearsed. That to me is priceless. How much you get together, and I think when you start putting money in, it's when the audience is really picking up on it, and I gauge it with the audience, because you can spend it on Facebook ads, but all you're doing there with Facebook ads when you're paying for promo is you're basically just holding up a sign and saying, by the way, this is who we are. If it is not ready, then it's pointless. And so many bands say Facebook ads don't work, and I'm like, well, you're not ready yet. You know, I could just stand up and I could say, this is me and this is what I do. If it's not appealing to the people I'm around, if it's not good enough for what they want, then it's kind of, you're just wasting your money. So the key is to get it ready. I still think, if it were me, I still think getting together as much as possible and actually rehearsing daily, like every day, like, because people keep telling me that they want to take over the world. So if you're going to do that, take that seriously. Taking over the world, it's big. Yeah. You know, taking over the world. So use the time instead of the money. Like, 100 quid, what's going to buy you? It's not really going to buy you much. So I could give you 10 different answers, and all of them will benefit a little bit. Yeah. But I think it comes down to the crux, which is stop thinking about the money and start thinking about the audience, because these are the things that you can do for free. I'm spending lots of money on doing this thing because I love it and it's part of the building the brand. But if I didn't want to, I could do it for free because I have my phone, and when I give away competitions, I can give away my time. So I don't need to go and get t-shirts printed. I don't need to go and put Facebook adverts out. What I can do is I can say, look, I'm prepared to come and talk at your event for free. I'm prepared to get someone to hold my phone and video it, or take my friend to video it for free. Even last night, I went to that band, I watched the whole thing, and I was thinking, this band have got what an opportunity. They're rehearsing. You've got a guy there in Bruce who's had a #1 album. Like, he's literally toured the world at the time with the biggest bands in the world. He was literally sitting on Bon Jovi's private jet, touring the world Bon Jovi. Next to him is Mark. Mark was in Pitch Shifter. I mean, Mark's toured the world with some of the biggest metal bands in the world, so in their genre, and me. And then they're going on, and I'm thinking, no one's got their phone out. I'm like, it's driving me mad. No one's got their phone out. No one's taking no one's just going, is it alright if I take pictures of this? Because our audience need to know this shit's going down. This is huge. We're working in a pre-production session with people that have sold millions of records, and they're standing here helping us, and we're talking about stuff, and this is what we're doing, and I'm like, no one's recording it, no one's got a phone out, nobody's making notes. They're just chatting like it's no big deal. And I'm thinking, it fucking is a big deal. This is a big deal for you. Don't pretend this is not a big deal. This is a big deal. Don't play it off in some bullshit manner that's like that you're too cool for school. And also, don't forget, because that's what bands do. And then they go, what should we spend money on? And I'm like, Well, you should have got your phone out.
Yeah.
Because you got it. It's free.
Yeah.
That was the bit. That was the bit you missed out. So can you spend money? Yeah, you spend money on loads of things. But until you've nailed the basics, which is, as soon as something important happens that you need to tell your audience, you tell your audience. At that point, you do that. Once you've got that and your audience is reciprocating and all of a sudden things are starting to grow, you will know.
Yeah.
Because instead of being, I could spend it, what will happen is you'll go, oh my goodness, I've been asked to do this gig and it's going to cost us this much money to get there. We have to put that money in. Oh my goodness, we've been asked to go on this radio show, you know, or we've asked to be doing a competition, but they want a new track. We need to go in the studio and record this thing. These are the things that come in and go, you need to do these things. And I you know, it frustrates me when I mean, I don't know about these people, but I'd like to. Well, I will be. I'll be checking out Marie's stuff and hopefully working with her on her social media. But it frustrates me when I ask people questions and go, "What have you been up to over the last couple of weeks?" And they tell me, and I'm like, "Oh, dude, that's really, really cool." And I'm looking through their social media, and I'm like, "Where's the stuff that you've been telling me? It's all in your head. It's not coming out." So for me, you don't need any money at all. None yet. Nothing. I mean, it's just. At this point, if you can find ways to just rehearse as many times as possible, get together, and if you can't rehearse drums in your flat, then you can bring the guitarist and the singer together, and you can be writing and you can be recording on phones. For me, it's like, how much time can you spend being creative and making stuff and telling your story to your audience and building something together?
Do you feel like if you do enough of that and you just focus on your audience, then there might not even come a point where you do need to spend money on help? You know,
because do you know, I'll tell you, well, absolutely, two things. Something happened the other day, and this is going to be weird for a lot of people watching, because this is where the kind of people want the luck to happen. Yeah. But the other day, I got sent through. I get sent through stuff every day, and I try and listen to as much as I can. I do my best. And this band popped up, and they said, "Can you listen to this stuff?" So I was like, "Yeah, of course." I heard it, and the first thing I said was, "We need to get this band in the studio." Yeah. And I said to them, "Your stuff is amazing. We need to get stuff in the studio. We haven't got any money." Instantly, I was like, "I don't care. I'll pay for it. I'm putting you in the studio." I haven't got a record label, but I want that out in the world. I bought into it. I heard it. It was incredible, and I was like, "That band, I want them out." And they said, "We can't yet. We haven't got the money." And I was like, I want to pay for it. So that is where, you know, people are wanting the music industry to get involved. It's not the music industry. It's someone who's going to take pride and passion in their band and help out. You know, I'm not going to fund their entire band, but I hear those things all the time where someone, you know, at that music event, someone had just said, "I'll manage your band and I'll pay for everything." And he just loves it so much that he's funding the band. You know, these things do happen. But for me, though, that bit where I just heard it, and it clicked for me, and I was like, that's just my type of music. I love that. I want that in my life. I want to record that. You know, you don't. The reason why they did that is because they made something amazing. They made something creative, and that wasn't money. There was no money in that. That was talent. That was talent and time and creativity and thinking about it and all of those things. So you don't need money yet. I don't think. And when you do need the money, that, like you said, if it's good enough, someone will probably want to come on board a bit. So, that's a bit flippant, but on the whole, I just don't think most of my audience, I don't think now is the time to be spending lots of money. I think now is the time to go hellbent for leather on making something amazing.
And helping your audience love you. Right, very last question.
Okay.
From Michael Rodriguez. Is performing covers a good idea, or should a band strictly stick to original material? Okay,
so I'm guessing that question is, you're in an originals band, should you be doing covers? And this is a question that comes up with when I deal with bands, and also it's something that frustrates me when I'm out watching bands. So the answer is this: a cover, and notice I say a cover, not covers. A cover can be a really great thing for your band, because what it does is it tells your audience where you've come from and where you're going. It's a story, you know, and also it can dictate at a gig a certain reason or point in time, a reason why you're at that gig. And I'll give you an example for that. I was in New York a couple of weeks back, and I was like, I want to go and see a band. So started looking around for what was around. There was a band called Arkles. I never heard of them. I checked out the stuff and I was like, yeah, they sound quite good. So I was like, went to see them. Went into the gig. It was a really cool venue called the Bowery Ballrooms, which is very famous in New York. There's a band called Iron Tom, and the song that they had was called Be Bold Like Elijah that was playing, and I was like, I love this song.
Yeah.
So I've paid my money, I'm happy. This song is amazing.
Yeah.
I love this song. Anyway, Arkles came on, and I was like, they started the gig, and I was thinking, oh, these guys are really, really good. By the end of the gig, I'm not joking, I've seen a lot of bands. I think it was the best gig I've ever been to in my life. Probably because of where I was. I was in New York and I was just stumbled across this band. They were incredible live. And the frontman was just so good. Gets to the end of the gig, they invite the support band on. It's called Iron Tom. They're in New York. They're from Canada or somewhere. The other band's from Los Angeles. They came on. What do? They do Sabotage by Beastie Boys. The place goes mental.
Yeah.
Now, if they go and do Sabotage somewhere else, it's not going to be the same thing. But they just said, look, we're in New York. We love coming to New York. This is a chance for us to do something cool. So we've learned this track. And it was like in the moment thing that we were all like, it's amazing. That's so cool. And the support band came out. So you can use covers to your advantage. And I think, again, from where you've come from and saying, look, this song back in the 70s or 80s really sums up our roots and what we believe in and what we've come from, and we're putting our spin on it. That's why you get stuff like Radio 1 Live Lounge and things. People love your versions of covers. But again, what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't just start throwing covers in unless you don't have enough songs and you can't get the gigs and you're a very, very young band. So it's about using covers. The other thing you've got to be very, very careful of with covers, and this is a big thing, is if you put a cover in the wrong place in the set, or you pick a song which is so amazing and so iconic that it shows up all your material. And I've seen that many times. I've seen many times where I've gone to see bands and I'm thinking, these guys are good, and then all of a sudden they'll play some amazing song and I'll just think, that's really showing up your inexperience in songwriting, and it just downplayed what they did. So you've got to be careful with a cover, but I do think a cover is a very, very good idea. But Sabotage was a really, really good idea because it wasn't really similar to any of their other stuff. So I wasn't judging them. And it sort of summed up a moment of why they were there. They put it at the end of their set before the sort of, I think it was the encore or just before the encore. The whole thing just worked out. So it was very well thought out. So I would say if you're going to do covers, the answer to that question is be careful. Don't throw them in willy-nilly. Think of a song which sums you up and don't go for the obvious thing. Don't just go for, we're an acoustic ballad-y type duo or an acoustic artist, so therefore I'll pick a Damien Rice or an Ed Sheeran song. Because I'm like, Damien Rice is like one of the greatest artists of all time and Ed Sheeran is the biggest thing in the entire world. Be careful with those sorts of things. However, if you just go back to something like, an acoustic version of a Fleetwood Mac song from like 1979 or something, and then all of a sudden it's like, that's clever, I can see what you're doing there. So it's about picking the right song from roots and putting your spin on it, and not just saying that's a popular song now, let's just do that.
Or what do you think to putting kind of your own spin on songs that are almost completely irrelevant to you, like an acoustic Rage Against the Machine song,
like why not doing something, putting a spin on something which can be your own thing. Last night I was in the pub and the song Only You came on, which went ba-da, ba-da, ba-da-da-dum, that song. And I was with Mark and he just went, this would make such a great metal song. And we were like, we really good. They had a big riff and it would sound amazing. And I don't think it's been done, but if, that's such a great idea because the whole thing lends itself to that genre of music. So, that is then an interesting twist. You're not just recreating something and it's not as good because obviously you're taking an iconic song and not being able to make it better. So, it's just about being clever. And the other thing is, when it comes to covers, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same way around. If you're in a covers band, don't put original stuff in. I know people are going, it's good because we've got the audience, but they don't give a shit. They're not in they're not in a place where they're going to consume your music and go play your own stuff. And people are watching going, yes, they are. They're not. They're absolutely not. You might get a couple of people that go, yeah, we want to hear you. They don't really. They're just pissed. Like, when you're in a covers band, the whole point of it is you're there to do a job. And that job is to entertain people and to play covers and actually get them just singing along and dancing and that kind of stuff. So that's what a covers band does. Don't stick original song in. It's just not a good idea. And the same thing, when you're originals band, the whole thing is about your music and you as an artist. So you've got to pick something that supports that. If it doesn't 100% support what you are doing, then don't do it. So very careful.
All right.
Cool.
That's the last one.
Right, I have to go to Edinburgh.
Yeah, you got to go
so,
get a plane.
if anyone's in Edinburgh this week and fancies a cup of tea, then, hit me up. Otherwise, see you next week.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.